Senator Broxton could not be here today, but sitting in for him is Chief of Staff, Legislative Policy Aide. I don't know what Janice's title is. What is it? Legislative Aide, Janice Gilley. Senator Broxton is on the Appropriations Subcommittee on Education. He's the chair. Banking and Insurance, Appropriations, Education, Ethics and Elections, Judiciary, and the Joint Committee on Public Counsel Oversight. And again, his legislative aide, is that right? Chief Legislative and bottle washer. Janice Gilley, former county administrator. Next to be here, Representative Michelle Salzman, District 1, the north half of Escambia County for now, but could be Navarre, depending on how they draw the maps.
Not his map.
Oh, well, all right. I'm just a wee... Michelle Salzman, in her first term, is on the Civil Justice and Property Rights Subcommittee, Healthcare Appropriations Subcommittee, Judiciary Committee, Local Administrative and Veterans Affairs Subcommittee. Yes. The Post-Secondary Education and Lifelong Learning Committee, that would be her. Yes. And Representative Salzman.
Is that all I get?
Better tchotchkes, better applause.
That's right.
And now Representative Alex Andrade, District 2, which could be the city of Pensacola in the future, but is now almost all the beaches and the southern half of Escambia County, plus Gulf Breeze, as I say all the time. He is on the Education... Second term? Second term, okay. Education and Employment Committee, he is the Republican Committee Whip. Post-Secondary Education and Lifelong Learning Subcommittee, Pre-K through 12 Appropriations Subcommittee, Professions and Public Health Subcommittee, and Secondary Education and Career Development Subcommittee, Alex Andrade. By the way, for those of you who don't know me, I'm Andrew McKay. I host the Pensacola Morning News on News Radio 92.3 and AM 1620. 5 to 9 mornings, we play classic rock and the occasional retiring director of the National Institutes of Health. Anybody? Anybody? 1, 2? Okay, a few who heard the show this morning. Let's start. Michelle, were you prepared to go first?
I certainly can.
Now we're going to have Representative Salzman with an overview, and then you'll have questions after that.
So, I'm sorry, Andrew, you want me to do an overview of last year or what we're doing this year?
It's your time.
Oh,
Probably for this year, I would think, but I don't know. Todd, for this year. Okay.
So, good morning, everybody.
Hello.
Hi. What I'd like for you to do real quick is look to the person to your left, and if you don't know your left or right, that's okay. Just look next to you and just say, hey, are you okay?
Hey, are you okay?
Love it.
So do you...
I love it. So how many people, with a show of hands, how many people thought that was super hard to do? Anybody think that's hard to do? Okay, well, you two come see me afterwards. Awesome. Well, I'm Michelle Salzman. I represent the north end of Pensacola area. I like to tell everybody the not-so-cool spots, the rural parts of the community. I have a love and a passion for those folks. We've been trying for the past year to really bring some of the conversation, some of the dollars, some of the services to the north end of the community. It doesn't mean I want to take away from the cool parts of town, but there's enough money in Florida, enough resources in Florida for everybody to be taken care of. And so that's why I ran, that's why I'm here, and I'm super excited about what's coming up this upcoming session. I have a list of things that I am working on personally. And of course, the state as a whole has, I think, pretty much a lot of the priorities that the chamber has listed here, especially the COVID liability, the workforce, healthcare, I mean, all of it. To be honest with you, I think that your chamber is aligned with the leadership of Florida, which means that we're going to be in a good shape, all of our businesses here. And a nice little plug for the chamber. If you're not a member, you really should be. Todd has done a phenomenal job. Not that he took anything bad, because, you know, Clay is my heart, and he did a great job too. But we are so blessed and fortunate to have Todd as your CEO, as one of my mentors. And if y'all wouldn't mind, give him a round of applause real quick. There have been many times that Todd has called me and said, Michelle, what are you doing? I'm like, thank you, Todd, I'll fix it. So what am I focused on? I made notes, I hope you don't mind, just so that I don't forget, because I was at a meeting recently and they said, well, what are you working on? And at the end of it, I was talking to somebody afterwards and I said, well, I'm doing the Main Street Historic Preservation Tax Credit Bill. And they were like, what? Why didn't you talk about that? Know your audience, right? So I feel bad. So I wrote them down. I'm just going to list them very quickly. I won't read a lot. But Assistive Tech Advisory Council, that's for people with disabilities. There's a statewide advisory council. It could use some updating, some tweaking the legislation to really put some more teeth and meaning into that legislation so that folks with disabilities can access the technology resources a little bit better. I have, and y'all, I want to hear a round of applause bigger than anything because it's taken 2 bill slots for this, but I'm running the Blue Angels motorcycle license plate bill. Go ahead. Thank you, Dave. I sure love my Dave. And so basically, all the money from that will do the same thing that the license plate bill is going to be doing that just passed recently. But as you know, you can't put a dollar figure on STEM and the importance of our Naval Aviation Museum and all things that the Navy brings to Pensacola. So I am absolutely honored to carry that bill. It's already passed. Both the fee bill, yes, I said a fee bill passed, both the fee bill and the actual license plate bill passed the first committee. It only has 1 more to go. Our great senator is running the companion bill, so I don't think we'll have any trouble there. I'm running an Alzheimer's awareness bill. Just trying to fix some things, bring some more awareness to how you identify the onset of Alzheimer's and dementia. I'm also with the CFO, with our great Jimmy Petronas, running the fire cancer bill. It's a bill that will extend the cancer benefits to the fire inspectors. So oftentimes you'll have fire inspectors, obviously they go in and inspect the fire. Recently we updated legislation to provide the firefighters with cancer coverage, but we left them out, we left the investigators out, so it's just a quick little fixed bill. I don't foresee that being any issue. I also have a criminal sentencing bill. I carried it last year, I'm carrying it this year. I hope that we get more movement. We've been working really hard on that. We all know that a lot of folks that get captured into the jail are really just not folks that need to be in jail. They're really folks that just didn't make some right decisions. Maybe they were in a bad place mentally. Maybe they got on drugs. And this bill just kind of helps keep people out of jail. So once you get out, you're on probation. And it's so easy to get back in jail when you're on probation. I mean, if I got arrested for all the minor things that some of those people get put back in jail for, well, I wouldn't be your state representative, that's for sure. So we're hoping that gets some more movement. But criminal justice reform is certainly something really important to the mental health care and to the whole health of the community. The next one is qualification updates for access to care and diagnosis in autism and adolescents with autism. And I haven't filed that yet. It's in drafting. I've been working closely with ACA, the Deputy Secretary over Medicaid, and Tom Wallace and Jules Carrier, trying to make sure that we get that language right. We might not actually even need the legislation. That happened last year. I had a bill I thought for sure I was going to run. We spent like 4 months in research and then found out we can change it other ways. We'd worked very closely with the agency, and they had decided that they would change it internally. So we'll see about that. But basically, if you haven't noticed, I have a big mental health circle there going around, and I created the Mental Health Task Force here in Pensacola with some incredible community leaders. The conversation started with the CEOs, Jen Grove, Jules Carrier, a couple others, and I said, well, would y'all be willing to sit down and have a conversation about, what we can do to fix the access issue to mental health care? And they said, sure, that's fine, and I thought that I was like strong-arming them because, I actually serve on the Healthcare Appropriations Committee, but it turns out they really wanted it. It went from 10 people to 75, and we've got partnerships from all across the state. The governor's office is engaged, as well as all of the major agencies, Department of Health, Department of Juvenile Justice, every department. And if you go to mentalhealthtaskforce.org, you can see all of the people that are on that task force, and it's just incredible. We have the chief of police, the mayor, the safety director, of course the chamber, Todd would not be there. All of the hospital CEOs, you've got ACA's engaged, Department of Health, Department of Children and Families, Matt Gates' office, you name Department of Veterans Affairs, the Navy base, Captain K is there. Everybody you can think of. Even we have judges. We have the Century Prison. The idea is just to collectively come together and have a conversation about what it's like to really address the stigma behind mental health. So if you wouldn't mind, before I hand the mic over to Janice, an incredible lady. Oh, it's going to Alex next? I apologize. How about I let Andrew do his job because he's very good at it. So if you're on the mental health task force, would you mind standing real quick? I'd love for the room to see. It's pretty impressive. Don't not stand.
Very good, very good.
Some of y'all are shy. There's like 10 of y'all that didn't stand up. I'm going to give y'all the stink eye later. But anyway, that's really the gist of it. For my funding requests, I have 19 of them. They all steer around the Sheriff's Department, the public safety, infrastructure, and of course, healthcare. And we're going to try to bring it home for real for UWF this year. If you don't know, here's your little tidbit. They're really going to get it this year. I mean, it's going to be a great year for the University of West Florida. And then also, I would like to mention that you guys have I don't know if, Janice, are you going to talk about the enclave to the Navy base and the letter today, or are you going to?
I wasn't.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I know that in the past 24 hours, it's been an incredible thing. We actually got a letter of intent from the Department of Transportation directly to the Navy base for that Navy access, and they had a meeting this morning, so I'm super, y'all need to applaud. This is like so exciting. Access to that Navy base. So infrastructure is certainly, I think it's everybody's priority, which that's a good sign that we're in a real conservative community because we believe infrastructure is what the government is responsible for. So again, I'm Michelle Salzman. If you want to reach out to me or you want to get on my mailing list, I've got a little sign with a QR code. You just take a photo of it and it'll send you to the website to sign up. I have a list of all of the things that I accomplished the first session over there. It's little printouts. It's also on the website. It's a lot. We really did a lot last session. So again, thank you for your time. I need a bigger one than that. God bless it. Yeah. Okay, thanks.
Next on the list is Alex. Would you like to be next?
I can be, yeah.
Alex Andrade, representatives for State House District 2.
All right, thanks, Andrew. Is it okay if I stay seated for this? I think Janice and I have had a pretty long day so far, so if it's okay with y'all, I'll speak up. But I'll stay seated unless it becomes offensive to anybody. And sincerely, if it is, please raise your hand. But my name is Alex Andrade. I was first elected in 2018 to represent Florida House District 2, which is the southern half of Escambia County. The one bone I'd have to pick with Representative Salsman is I think House District 1 is great. And I think our everything north of I-10 is also incredible, and there's a lot of good growth over there. That I'm looking forward to continuing to help support because we are a team. When I was elected in 2018, we did not know what COVID-19 was. So I did want to take the opportunity to say thank you. I think one of the biggest assets here in Northwest Florida, one of the biggest reasons why I ran for office was to go support some of our kind of hidden gems. I think Jen Grove was one of the people that told me there are things that make our community rarefied air, these hidden gems in this community. Things like the Institute for Human and Machine Cognition right here in downtown. Things like the Andrews Institute in Gulf Breeze. And also one of the biggest ones is the fact that we have 3 world-class healthcare systems right here in our county in Baptist Hospital, Sacred Heart Hospital, and West Florida. So I did want to just take a moment and say thank y'all from the bottom of my heart for the past year and a half, 2 years almost at this point. I think that it's been pretty frustrating to have to go through a situation where things get politicized, information gets misconstrued, people take advantage of the situation and exacerbate certain things or downplay other things. And to have folks like Jen Grove and Mark Faulkner and Jules Carrier to go to, in addition to the fact that in my own household, my father-in-law is an infectious disease doctor at Baptist, and he's treated, the second COVID patient in the state of Florida and pretty much everybody since. So I did want to say and give a shout out to y'all. Thank you so much for everything you've been doing the past 2 years. This coming budget season, the governor recently released his proposed budget. I think a lot of folks think when the governor announces his budget, that's going to be the budget. But procedurally, what that means is that's what the governor hopes we fund. It is still contrary to what some might think. We still have 3 separate entities in American governance. We have the legislature, the executive, and the judiciary. All 3 are equal in authority, but we have different roles. It is absolutely the legislature's job still to pass laws and to pass a balanced budget, at least here in the state of Florida. So the governor did release his proposed budget, and good news for the folks at the chamber who created your policy statement. All 3 tax holidays that the chamber would very much like to keep into the budget are being requested to stay in, including the recently created 7-day Freedom Week sales tax holiday. So I'm looking forward to continuing to work on that. That was the first step in that process to make y'all's objective a reality. So it's a good sign that the governor has included that in his proposed budget as well. We're not necessarily in lean times. My first 2 legislative sessions, again, we weren't going through a pandemic. We also didn't have tens of billions of unrequested federal dollars coming down. So the first 2 years of my legislative session, when the governor got his veto pen out, you started getting really uncomfortable. Last session was the first time that we didn't have that situation because there was so much federal money being printed and sent to every single state that we had to figure out, what to do with it even. And this is going to be another year. So our budget, for context, went from $89 billion the year before COVID to over $100 billion. The first time the state of Florida has ever had a budget over $100 billion this past legislative session. The governor has decided we're going to tighten our belts this year. And he's proposed a $99.7 billion budget. So we'll get back down into the 2 digits in the billion column if the governor gets his way in this legislative session. But, some of the biggest highlights are the 3rd year in a row, Andrew, of a $500 million proposal for increases for teacher pay, in addition to the current salaries of teachers. So if this gets passed, this will be $1.5 billion in the past 3 years that the state of Florida is committed to raising teacher pay. So I think that's a very strong signal to send, especially when we're competing for talent with other states. I can tell you right now, if you talk to Tim Smith, he's going to Auburn, their teaching college, and trying to get, people who are about to graduate to come to, be employed by Escambia County to come teach. And he has people from Texas offering $10,000 signing bonuses. This is the nature of our kind of, employment market right now in every single industry. And, government has to compete for employees the same way every other industry does. I see Mark Faulkner nodding his head a little bit. You guys have some staffing issues too? Yeah, we'll work on it. But no, personally, I always run a transportation bill. Transportation is my passion. I'll be running a bill on bail reform. Hopefully, helping some folks in town who, I think it's a tragedy if someone can't afford a $250, cash bond to get out of jail to go back to their families while they're awaiting, resolving their potential criminal case. I'll be working on, some prescription drug policy. No, not 340B pricing. Federal government's got to figure something out on that one, but I'll be, focusing again on some healthcare, some criminal justice, some transportation, and a couple other fun things. But I look forward to the questions, y'all. Thank you.
And Janice Gilley.
Yes. And
sitting in for Senator Doug Broxton.
Yes. And so I was thinking I might do a poll the old-fashioned way. I might do a poll where we raise hands. Sit, raise your hand, or if you need me to stand, raise your hand. It's okay. Okay, nobody raised their hand, so
I'll do it the rude way. Does anybody want her to stand? You're good.
Okay, that's fantastic. So I am a little bit shorter, that's what I was thinking. So I do want to give you greetings from Senator Broxton. Unfortunately, he is at home, so he's very disappointed he wasn't able to be here, but he is recovering from a medical situation, and his wife and his doctor have said he cannot leave his house. Now, I will tell you that he did mention to me he might try and sneak out, but she heard him say that, and that got shut down. So, and if you see him out, we're supposed to report to her that he's broken out. But I did want to thank you all for this. As Representative Andretti mentioned, the governor has unveiled a $99.7 billion budget, which is pretty huge. And the fortunate thing is Senator Broxton is on full appropriation, so he will have the opportunity to work with these two wonderful representatives to make sure that we bring funding back to our local organizations, our city, our county, the school board, and the hospitals. You know, they always have some very important funding that they need as well. As the budget chair for education, he oversees about a $34 to $35 billion budget, which is pretty large in itself. And so part of that would be all the things that you would expect to be in education. You have universities, colleges, you have the early learning and things like that. And then you also have the situation that Representative Andretti mentioned is the governor would like to go to $47,500 as a starting salary for teachers. And so they have been they've had a major commitment to trying to raise those salaries for first-year teachers. So, you know, as he said, it's a governor's recommendation, but the senator will be in a position to try and make that happen. One of the big issues that I think you'll see this year in the K-12 arena will be a situation where they want to create a charter commission to review charter schools to have more competition in with the public school system. Previously, or as it's currently done, the school boards actually are the ones that have to approve charter schools. So I think that'll be one of those big education issues that you'll see this year. One of the other things that happened, as you may be aware of, and those of you that have children, they did do away with the Florida student assessment testing. So now they're going to have to come up with a new way to do assessment. And one of the things that they're looking at is they would do real-time monitoring throughout the year, progress monitoring. So instead of everybody being upset once a year, they may get to be upset more than once a year. But I do expect that to be a pretty robust discussion. One of the things that the senator is very personally passionate about, and you'll probably hear more about this, is the reading progress that we have with our students. It is a situation where anywhere from 30 to 40%, given the community that you're in, the students do not read at grade level. And once you get to fourth grade, if you've not progressed in your reading by the third grade, there is an opportunity for you to be a dropout. It's almost 4 times more than a regular student. 9 out of 10 of those dropouts are not eligible for 90% of the jobs that you have because they don't have a high school education. And so we know what happens as a society when we don't have folks that are able to compete. So one of the things that the senator's working on is actually a 0 to 5. So we're working with the Studer Community Institute with those folks in the brain bag to make sure that we make that potentially a statewide program. At the hospital or, you know, somewhere with early learning, Head Start, make sure that those folks have access to that tool. And then the other thing is we're looking very strongly at making sure that our assessments are done in such a way that a student does not leave the third grade without having that skill. It may be tough on the family and that student, but if they don't have it, we already know what their prognosis is for successful life from then on out. So, and there's a saying, you learn to read to third grade, and from fourth grade on, you read to learn, and our curriculums are still like that. So we thank the Chamber for being very supportive of that particular initiative. The other thing that we're working on I did want to mention this, on the reading. Any of those of you that have children, please try very hard to work on phonemic awareness and phonics and vocabulary development, because every bit of reading science that we have been working on the past couple of months has been very, very clear that that is the right way to teach a child to read. So if you're not familiar with it, call our office. We'll be more than happy to help you get some resources so that you can work with your children on that. In terms of, let's see. One of the bills that Senator Broxton has. So he has several bills that have come to him from constituents. One of them is, it's a non-compete piece of legislation. And during COVID, there have been some employees that have lost their employment not due to misconduct, So you can still voluntarily leave a job, or you can be terminated due to misconduct. But outside of that, sometimes because of COVID, folks have lost their job. And so one of the things that we're looking at is trying to give an opportunity for employees that have unfortunately had that situation happen, be able to not have to comply with the non-compete. So, and actually just to share with you, the governor is very supportive of this. It was something that he had hoped that the legislature could have addressed during the special session that we recently had on COVID. It was just a little bit too technical, as I'm sure Representative Andretti can tell us from a legal perspective, to probably get through in a 3-day special session. Another bill that he's had come to us is related to suspended license. Many of you maybe have employees that might not be the best drivers, or they might also just have multiple situations that cause them to get in a cycle of maybe not paying their fines properly, or maybe they get into a situation where they have their license suspended. One of the things that we're trying to do is to make sure that folks are not kept from working because of fines and fees. So he's working with the clerks around the state to make sure that that helps you keep employees. As we saw, many of you need employees, and so we also want to provide tools to help you keep the employees that you have. Another piece of legislation that came to him from some constituents is it's called the freedom of speech for healthcare practitioners. We actually have testimony from numerous doctors in our region where the national boards, it's called the Federation of State Boards of Medicine, the medical boards, that they've basically been looking at social media posts of physicians and healthcare practitioners, and when those individuals have come to the time for their certification, recertification, licensure, and things like that, they're having these posts that may differ from the philosophy of some of these boards, making that as part of the body of evidence that's given to them as to why they may not be recertified. And that is, I think, disturbing to the senator, and it's been disturbing to a lot of our healthcare practitioners that have provided us actual information related to that. A bill that you all might find interesting as business owners, if you happen to have a fleet of vehicles, we've got a piece of legislation related to digital license plates. And what's really neat about these license plates, so you don't have to manage or have transponders, you don't have to manage fees and tolls, and you don't have to manage apps for parking. Once you have these digital license plate, they already have the ability to connect for the connectivity. So it's another extension of the Internet of Things. So we use the connectivity that's already there. The other thing it can do, it can display if the vehicle's been stolen. It can say stolen vehicle on the digital plate. It can also say amber. It can notify people writing that it's an amber alert or a silver alert. So there are a lot of benefits to this particular license plate. There are several states that currently already have it. And the other thing that I think might be cool, and I did look, and I don't think Scott Lunsford's here, but you don't have to visit the tax collector's office to get a license plate every year. So it literally downloads when you want to renew. So you don't have to go make that visit, and you also don't have to worry about late fees, because when you find out it's fixing to expire, you can hurry up and download it. So there are some really cool things. I think this is a future thing, but it's also, like I said, in several states it's already out there. A bill that you all might find interesting to look at is Senate Bill 620. It's not Senator Broxton's bill, but it is a business bill. It's a bill that basically says that if a county or a city or any municipality through their charter or through ordinance creates a situation in which a business is 15% financially damaged, that they can then pursue damages from that entity. So it's going to be, those of you that may be aware of private business, or private property rights, you may be familiar with the Burt-Harris Act. Mm-hmm. And with the Burt-Harris Act, that's where you have to have real property associated with the action. Well, in this, you don't have to have real property as part of the cause of action. A business can actually make this. And there is a House co-sponsor. So it'll be an interesting conversation and debate at the least. The Senate committee was already pretty good. The conversation was pretty good. And then I would just end with this. It's obviously there are two major requirements of the legislature. They have to create an annual budget, and they also have a decennial reapportionment that they're required to do. Both of those are in the Constitution. And so this year, Senator Broxton is the vice chairman of the redistricting. And so we expect that first week of session for us, which starts on January 11th. By the 13th that week, the Senate will have Senate maps and congressional maps. And I only mention this to share with you a couple of reasons. So I've been around since '92. So this is my fourth redistricting. Todd and I have been around redistricting quite a while. He's not as old as me, but we've been around redistricting quite a while. When I first started this job with the legislature, there were 6 representatives for Escambia County. We had 4 state representatives and 2 senators. We now have 3. So I just wanted to share with you, there's 160 members of the legislature. Representatives Andrade and Salzman worked very, very hard with Senator Broxton to make sure that we represent this community in such a way that it continues to take care of you. And they have a lot of work to do. So I just want to thank them for their hard work and dedication. And I wanted you to be aware of how much they have to do with only 3 members in our delegation at this time. So thank you.
And in case you didn't catch it, what's interesting about the bill with regards to the Burt Harris style litigation potential is that's profits. So the theory of it is that if a city passes an ordinance that costs your business more than 15% of its profits or revenue, I think it's either or, that's when you might be able to sue them for that bad legislation. So it's a really fascinating bill. All right, so questions. Let me take a look here at the technology and see what we have. Let's see. Okay, first question. And Janice, since she is not the senator, never wants to step on the senator's toes or represent him for something that he would prefer to say himself. So she will answer when she can and probably oftentimes defer. Fair?
Yes.
Okay. First question. See, this is one that I know he would be first up to talk about. That's why I bring it up. What's your opinion of the rising homeowners insurance rates, and how do you plan to combat it? Janice, what will you do?
Okay, so I will not do anything, but Senator Broxton does actually serve on the Committee for Banking and Insurance, and so I am quite sure that they will have an opportunity to look at that.
So, she great? Yeah.
So Florida's got a couple of unique things that go against it right now. First, while we have 8% of all homeowners insurance, property insurance damage cases in the United States, we have over 80% of all property insurance litigation in the country. If you don't think our market is unhealthy, like if you don't think that you would diagnose that as, an at-risk, a critical health concern for that market, we're not on the same planet. So last year, we did take a first crack at trying to bring our property insurance market back into the realm of reality and match it closer to other states. But we have an interesting dynamic in the state of Florida based on our advocacy model, plus we have a very, very part-time legislature. So we're a part-time legislature. You don't want us there in Tallahassee any longer than 60 days a year changing our laws or fiddling with our budget. But one of the drawbacks of that is that we're not a full-time legislature. We don't develop a deep level of expertise on everything that comes under the jurisdiction of the state. So every single year, we have 2 very well-funded lobbies that come to Tallahassee on opposite sides of this issue. And it's very tough for legislators who are there for 60 days and then go home back to whatever business they run or whatever they do when they come home to actually understand what the truth is, to come up and decide what's right. I mean, so what I constantly remind folks is I don't care if one side or the other is supporting my proposal or not. The only person I care about is when I go knock on those 10,000 doors to go get reelected, I have the ability to explain exactly why I believe what I did, the vote I took, was the correct vote. So, last year we took a crack at this property insurance issue. One of those components was, limiting the time span on the replacement value for a roof. In Florida, our roofs take a beating. We also have severe weather events in Florida. If you're not familiar with Hurricane Sally or Hurricane Michael or Hurricane Andrew, I'll give you an earful after this panel. But modeling our property insurance market, the policies that we have in place after other states that have seen improvement, is the best way for us all to identify a guidepost that we can actually all confirm, right? Because we have this wealth, this deluge of information from all sides, and we are getting manipulated, right? And no side's wrong. That's the responsibility of both advocates on both sides to go sell us on their position. The trick is we got to figure out what's right, because obviously what we've been doing for the past 30 years has not worked. So we are working on it. We have a state-run property insurance program called Citizens. I don't think anybody wants to be on Citizens property insurance in the state of Florida, but its roles are increasing at the moment, and we got to figure out a way to keep drawing that down. And part of that is going to be having very difficult conversations with homeowners and residents back home when they say, well, why are you hurting me right now? We have to explain our market's unhealthy. We got to fix it somehow. It's like chemotherapy. It's going to be terrible to go through, but we have to do that to get to a point where we have a healthy market again.
Representative Salzman?
I concur.
Excellent. Let's see. How are we planning on addressing the needs for returning veterans to our area? I feel like this would be natural to you first, if you want.
Sure, can you repeat the question?
Yeah, how are we planning on addressing the needs for returning veterans to our area? I presume the question is, what are we doing to make it easier for veterans coming back home to Florida to transition to civilian life, or something along those lines? Whoever asked the question, did I get it about right? Okay.
You're not on the spot. I'm sorry. I can't see the whole room. It gives me anxiety. So I don't have a direct line of responses to that. I don't think there's enough paper and pen to say all the things that we work on every year in the legislature for veterans. The governor wants Florida to be the most friendliest veteran state in America. That's what he calls us. That's what he strives for. He tells us, he directs us in the budget to put money towards veterans. And we have Admiral Hartzell, who runs the Florida Department of Veterans Affairs, a phenomenal man who is so incredibly passionate about veterans. And then we have Congressman Gates's office has great representation that really is there. Every time I call, and I'm sure Representative Andrade can say the same thing, I mean, they are so incredibly responsive. So as far as what do we do to keep them here, we are continuously assessing how we can do better. Namely, some things that I'm directly affiliated with are the Monument to Women Veterans, and then the statewide mandated Women Veterans Task Force that is mandated by the governor to go all over Florida and talk to women veterans and say, what can we do better? How do we keep you here? Where did you come from? And then, of course, going to the Navy bases and the other bases that we have. Sorry, go Army. I meant to say Army bases. Going there and saying, how can we keep you here? Creating those partnerships like what the Chamber has with the Navy base and the state legislature, supporting these partnerships in the local communities to make sure that we are providing the resources so that we can have that outreach to the veterans to make them want to stay here. Of course, addressing the health care needs of the veterans has been a big thing. And that part of conversation is ongoing. With a lot of the money that we get for veterans being federal, it's really about partnerships between federal, state, and local.
Janice, Alex, anything you want to add?
I would just say, you talk about team effort. There's 7 state representatives west of Tallahassee out of 120. I mean, there's some subdivisions in Miami that have more state representatives than the Panhandle. But one of the biggest assets we have here in Northwest Florida is that Pat Maney, an institution in Okaloosa County, was actually recently elected to the state house. And Pat Maney, I think he might hold the record as the oldest state representative ever elected for the first time, but he's also a general, and he was also a county judge for a very long time in Okaloosa County. And Pat Maney spearheaded the creation of the Veterans Services Court here in the state of Florida. So having someone with that wealth of expertise and that experience under his belt really allows us to go do a lot of good things. I think, from licensure on down, I think you're not going to catch a single state representative who hasn't done something policy-wise on veterans at some point, or at least attempted to. I can tell you, as far as, if you were a truck driver in the military, when you retired out of the military, I passed the bill to say that your CDL, your truck driver's license, you can kind of just clep in to the state of Florida and get your state-issued CDL after leaving the military. So that's, providing those opportunities where, you can seamlessly transition into something in the state that you were doing at a very high level in the military is something that we need to continue to foster and grow. But, as Governor DeSantis has said and Governor Scott before him has said, we are constantly striving to be the most veteran-friendly state in the United States, and I think we're doing an incredible job right now.
Got a follow-up question here on the teacher salary one that I think might be worth clarifying. Raising the base pay for starting teachers is great. Mm-hmm. What's being done to deal with the compression then caused to the middle or more experienced teachers? Is the governor's budget, does it take account of the possibility of pay raises for more experienced, more tenured teachers?
I'll start by saying yes. So out of the $500 million being proposed, actually I think this year it might be up to $600 million. Generally 20 to 30% of that is allocated towards increasing veteran teacher pay and accommodation of starting teacher pay. Mm-hmm. And again, this isn't something folks in the teachers union will ever acknowledge or offer up. When we went down this path to go allocate massive new funding for teacher pay, it was in response to one issue and one issue only. It was an issue that was brought up to me from day one when I got elected, which was the teacher shortage. So the starting teacher pay was designed to address that one issue that everyone at the time agreed was the biggest issue in the profession. So we allocated, I think, 80% of that first year's funding to increase starting teacher pay to draw more people into the profession, which was what that money was designed to do. But in acknowledgement, out of respect for veteran teachers, we also allocated $200 million that first year to increase veteran teacher pay. So there is no veteran teacher making less than or equal to a starting teacher's salary. And while no, teachers are never going to be paid enough as much as they deserve. My mother is a public school teacher in Broward County. She will tell me that every single day. We are doing everything we can to give them money that they didn't negotiate for in their prior contract, and increase their pay as well on the line. But the focus and the design for this initial money was to increase the number of teachers we have in the state to address the teacher shortage.
Yeah, I would just add to that there is a bonus that's also a retention bonus that's also in that particular recommendation from the governor. And as we saw with the law enforcement bonuses, sometimes the governor, due to collective bargaining, has to do an executive order to make sure that it actually gets to the teacher without having to go through some of those more arduous processes. So I think that's what the representatives are speaking to. So I think that the legislature is trying very, very hard to get that money to the pockets of the teachers. But there is a step in between with the school boards and collective bargaining.
What is our close time? It says 1 o'clock, 12:55, Todd. Okay. Think of all the ones. There's a couple of them here, but can't do that in 2 minutes. Are you doing anything specific that will work? I know you talked about, your bail bill. Michelle, you talked about a sentencing bill. But are you doing anything that you think might address what appears to be, increasing drug and violent crimes locally?
The Mental Health Task Force, if you don't know anything about it, just go to mentalhealthtaskforce.org, and we're working on that locally. Mm-hmm. And we have the support of the state. We have a couple of funding requests in for some things for the task force at the state level, but truly every major organization in this community, to include the government sector, has checkbooks ready to invest in this process. But the thing is, we don't just want to throw money at the problem. We really need to make sure that we make the right steps at the right time.
Alex, if not, that's fine. I'm just...
Oh, no. What I would say is, I think criminal justice should become more and more of a conservative issue, right? So in Florida, our recidivism rate, the rate at which people leave prisons and then return back to incarceration within the first 3 years is 30%, and it gets up to 60% after 6 years. Since the first day I was elected, we've worked to help Reentry Alliance Pensacola, which focuses on rehabilitation for folks re-entering society, to get housing and a job and a driver's license. You don't want to continue pushing that stereotype of someone leaving prison with a bus ticket, no license, driver's license. So So that is always, re-entry is always going to be an issue that needs to be focused on. In addition to that, just opportunities for people to go support their families, to go, find gainful employment, get training, not allow their prior incarceration to harm their future opportunities. Those are all things that, absolutely should continue to be a focus in Tallahassee and become more and more of a conservative issue to focus on.
Okay. And the last question, this should be a fairly quick one. I want to read this as asked. Can you do the MC Hammer dance? Let's start with Representative Salzman.
I think we should go to Janice.
Well, no. We'll do Janice's last.
Oh, I'm sorry.
This is my job.
Yes, sir.
So you feel confident that you could or could not? Won't ask for proof?
I can absolutely do it.
Alex?
Probably.
Okay. And Janice, now you're answering on behalf of the senator, not for yourself.
Yeah, I would not make him do that dance. Yes, I could certainly try.
All right, let's give them all a great round of applause. Thank you.
I don't know if I'd be any good at it, but I'd try.
You're dismissed. Thank you for coming.